I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
In case you haven't noticed, we have done a lot of Friday the 13th episodes lately.
I mean, who doesn't like Jason?
I know, right? Well, anyway, so today we're changing it up with our first Halloween episode. In particular, we're going to talk about the underdog in the series, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Second best one in the series after the original.
This one is hit or miss with Halloween fans. You either love it or hate it. Ironic enough, I used to hate it, but
Same.
John actually swayed me. I
welcome.
dig it now. And to top it all off, we have Stacey Nelkin here with us today. Stacey played Ellie in Season of the Witch. She's going to spill her guts to us in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. Now it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode. Today, we're smoking Space Jam again, because it's just that damn good. This shit elevates you for sure. Super quality bud.
Yeah, we already talked about it once. It's some good shit. That's why we smoking it a second time.
I'm sure those of you listening can tell we are definitely on a higher plane right now. You know what, dude? I was just thinking, though.
I don't know if it's the stratosphere or the ionosphere.
Look, I was thinking, though, right? I was just looking at that bag, and I'm like, man, I'm just so glad to, not have to be annoyed by street weed anymore. Like you remember, the days of everyone trying to say that everything was fucking Sour Diesel or Headband? Everybody you bought weed from it was either Sour Diesel or Headband, and that shit was not Sour Diesel or Headband.
It was Headband sometimes, but I feel like I always got the same effect off of Headband when I got it. Who knows if that really was Headband? It could have been some other strain that wasn't Headband. Either way, I like that one.
And what about Blue Dream and Blue Cheese though? Those are other ones that were just constantly like, oh, you want some Blue Dream?
Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, this does not taste like the same Girl Scout cookies that I smoked 2 weeks ago. And
everything was cheeses. I feel like.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
Shit never tasted like cheese though. But this Space Jam bag, I don't remember if I said it the first time. I'm pretty fucking high, but why do we only have Roadrunner? That's the only character on this bag.
He's the VIP, bro.
What? I don't.
We think they're gonna put LeBron James on the bag of bud? Is that what you're expecting? Him dunking a nug? That'd be amazing. Could you imagine him dunking a nug on the bag?
The Jersey 33 had different athletes on it. They had jerseys for Canseco. I think there was one for my main man Larry Bird.
Exactly. So give a bag to my man Roadrunner.
But Space Jam. When you think of Space Jam,
Bugs Bunny.
How many characters do you name before you get to Bugs Bunny? When Space Jam, I'm thinking LeBron, Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny, Lola Bunny, Marvin the Martian.
I'm all about that Marvin the Martian.
Porky the Pig, the whole cast of the Monstars, the NBA legends they took the powers from, Don Cheadle. I don't even what the hell is his name? Have you seen the new one?
No, I've not watched it. Nope.
I will say it's weird having Don Cheadle as a bad guy. It's just weird.
Well, no, I don't know, man. The bag's nice. It's nice and purple. You got Roadrunner. I think let the man have his bag. It works.
It's nice, but again, I don't know. And only Roadrunner. Obviously they weren't worried about copyright. They put Roadrunner on there. So, I can't get a Bugs Bunny, leaning against the, hoop around the ball or the ring around the ball.
It could be like the Sub-Zero Gushers line and the Mortal Kombat line. You never know. Maybe they got a Bugs Bunny strain lined up. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's got his own bag coming.
Well, if they got one, I'll take it for free.
Yeah, me too, but that ain't happening.
Like a screener, we get an advance copy.
Yeah, we get to review the weed. That'd be amazing. Speaking of being really high, though, I remember the first time that I got high, man. Not high, but the first time that I got, really high. And that was when I had Trainwreck for the first time. And, you know me, man. I usually smoke all throughout the day.
I remember them Trainwrecks back when you were, 2 houses ago. I remember the train wreck.
Yeah, and when I first had that shit, man, I had it with my morning coffee at 8 a.m, and I didn't smoke again until 2 p.m. That shit fucked me up, and it lingered. That was the first strain that I had that really was whoa. What about you? What's the first strain that sent you sailing?
I was gonna, before I get into that, I want to touch on coffee and weed. Man, I can't do that. Like, because when I drink coffee, I end up having a big cup. And then, when I smoke a lot. Man, like 45 minutes later, I feel like a meth addict or something. Not that there's anything wrong, you people out there doing meth, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like way too wired, way too jittery. I was going to say the first time I smoked was back in high school. I remember I did this kid's work assignment. He was like, yo, if you do this for me, as long as I get a D, I'll give you some weed. I literally copied it from ESPN.com and left the images in this paper, and she gave him a D-, so I got weed out of it. And then I had like one of these little single hitter bowls, like it was so tiny.
I remember those.
And my dumb ass is sitting there holding the metal part. I spark it and I go, oh shit, because it starts burning my hand. But oh man, I feel like except for a few occasions, like I've always had pretty good weed. The people I knew that were smoking when I first started smoking, they always had like good shit. And but yeah, a strain that I could distinctly remember though is that fucking train wreck when you started getting that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I just mentioned. Yeah, so yeah, that's your memory shit, too. Then
that's like the first specific strain, but I remember like. I've told you when I got street weed, they'd be like, oh, it's this. You used to care. And then, like you were saying, there's so many times it's just bullshit. It's just whatever somebody wants to call it. So, like, I never would ask. They just throw it. Like I said, Pineapple Express, just throw it in the bag, man. I don't care. Or no, I'm sorry. Grandma's Boy.
Grandma's Boy. That's right. Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Trainwreck, man, that shit was good. And, yeah, and since then it's just been, I mean, it's not chasing the dragon per se, and I think that's the thing about marijuana that's awesome is that like unlike other drugs, there is such the thing as chasing the dragon and conquering the dragon because there's so many different strains of weed that you can be like, oh man, I got so baked. But there's I can now name you several times that I've been higher than Trainwreck, and I'm sure you can as well. So that's the thing. It's not like where you're just like oh. You actually build, like, you can chase the dragon and get higher. It's not like, a heroin addict where they're like, oh, I'm trying to get so high. I'm trying to get that high that I once had and I'm never getting there. And I think cokeheads are the same way. But but with marijuana, it's just like, you're like, man, I got really high that one time. And then you're like, hey, there's a new strain on the street. Or, hey, this dude just rolled like a half-pound blunt. Like, there's always ways of chasing the dragon. And you know what? You don't throw up and there's no side effects afterwards. So fuck it.
And the other thing I would say is I've noticed, and it's funny because Nicole's made a comment with these bake bars that she was like, oh, I've noticed like I have to use that more. I have to like take more puffs.
Yep.
But the thing is like I've even noticed that when I've bought flour is that after a while I start feeling like, oh, this doesn't get me where I need to be with the same amount. But the thing with cannabis is there's so many different ways, and I feel like for a while I stopped using vapes because I wasn't getting that same feeling. But then after I stopped, it was just only smoking flower, and I come back to that, like, holy shit, it was like the first time I ever hit a vape pen again. Like, it just destroyed me after like 2 puffs. And it's like and a lot of times I feel like you'll get towards the end of your ounce or whatever, and you feel like you're building up a tolerance, and then the new strain you have, you get higher on that when you first start doing it. And it's kind of a process. When you start getting towards the end of that, you kind of feel like you're building a tolerance up to that, and then you're smoking something else and you fucked up again.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, I told you this the other day. I forgot how potent vape pens are. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I have my vape pen with me like all the time. I'm always, just like you do with your bake bars. And, but like I'll some like the other day, this just happened to me. I smoked and I was lit. And, I was like, you know what, I took 2 pulls off my vape pen. I was like, let me just take 2 pulls off my vape pen. The fucking room started spinning. I had to like, hold on to the wall, and I was like coughing. And I was like, vape pens they're popular for a reason. I love vape pens. I gotta be honest, like they will get you messed up, whether you want to add it on with your flour, use it as a substitute instead of flour. I still love smoking, I still love flour, but vape pens are the shit. And then like, I feel that now that they're in the now that they're part of the tools that we can use to smoke, I feel like that's always going to be the thing. You're either going to have weed or vapes or both.
And I mean, the vape pens are great for on the go. But I mean, yeah, I have got fucked up with a vape pen. Like the one time recently, I was watching The Sopranos and I was just so high and into the episode, like I forgot I was outside. Like for a minute I looked around, I was like, oh shit, I'm sitting outside.
So, why don't you why don't you tell the story about your double vape pen?
No, my quad vape pen.
No, that's right. It was.
I had these baked bars.
It was 4.
And they're what, maybe 5-6 inches. So like you could drop them and lose them pretty easy. So we lost them somewhere in Nicole's room, and then I found them. And we had them all together. She's sitting there talking to me, and I just thought, oh, fuck with it. I'm going to put all 4 of these and take a hit. The problem is I didn't just take
How high were you? How high were you when you thought to do this? Like what?
I wasn't that high, to be honest. I just thought, like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to hit 4 of these at once.
So you wanted to get super high, super quick.
It wasn't even that. I just was like, yeah, I wonder how big of a cloud this might end up making. So rather than take a smaller hit to compensate for the fact I'm hitting 4 vapes at once, I just took a normal hit. So I'm taking a normal hit of 4 bars. I immediately just go, and you can just see the cloud, and Nicole just goes, oh my God. And then the whole rest of it comes out. I start hacking. I can feel how red and watery my eyes are. And then Nicole's just like, you're gone. And I'm like, I know I'm gone.
And believe it or not, as idiotic as that is, that somehow inspired me and my wife to try it. We only had we had a 1 vape pen apiece, so we were only able to do two at a time. So I used hers and mine, and I took a huge rip, and I was coughing pretty hard. I was having trouble gaining some air there for a minute. I was like gasping for air. My face turned beet red, and I was definitely destroyed. And then I passed the 2 pens over to my wife, and I let my wife try them. And she's going to absolutely kill me when she hears this on the episode, but I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to do it. It's legendary. So my wife, Sam, she takes 2 vape pens, mine and hers, and she, puts them in her mouth, pulls, takes a huge hit, and then just starts coughing so hard. And I'm just like, are you okay? Are you okay? And it gets to the point where she's coughing so hard that I'm like, yo, like grab a pillow, like cover your mouth, like you're coughing so hard. And like she goes to reach to grab the pillow, and then just like her wrist just like kind of twitches, and she lays there for a second, and I realized that she fucking passed out. I jumped up and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? And she woke up, and she was completely fine. Like she didn't even know that she had missed any time. She was just like, hey, what's up? Like totally in a good mood. Didn't realize that she was like having a seizure for a second. So I'm sorry, Sam. I know you hate me for telling that story, but I had to do it.
Somebody sleeping on the couch Monday.
Hey man, you're a bad influence. That's my point in all of this.
How's it my fault?
All right, look,
I told you the story is a cautionary tale.
No, you were bragging.
And then
that was a milestone for you.
So after all this, we learned so well from our previous mistakes that when Kenny came to visit, we did
our buddy Kenny.
We did the double vape challenge again.
And it fucked him up.
Nobody died though, so here we are. Nobody was butt
miraculous.
chugging.
What?
You people get beer, they butt chug it so they get drunk quicker.
You know what, man? I'm going to spark this up. What do you got going on this week in horror history?
This week in horror history.
So once again, we got a lot of films celebrating anniversaries this week. Red Dragon, Beyond Reanimator, Mulholland Falls, My Soul to Take, the remake of I Spit on Your Grave from 2010. But the one I feel that's underrated is Joyride. I enjoyed watching it as a teen. I saw it on HBO, I want to say. I was in school, I should have been sleeping 2001, so I was like high school, I should have been sleeping.
I was going to say, we were in high school when this came out, weren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I guess I might have probably seen it with it being on HBO, probably like 2002. But yeah, you know me, I've always been an insomniac. It was a school night, couldn't sleep. came on. I was like, I heard about it. And with the cast, I mean, you might think it might just be another one of like your teen horror movies, and it kind of is in some ways, but it's really well done. And I haven't heard of anybody that has seen Joyride and hasn't liked it.
I just am having trouble believing that it's been 20 years since it came out. I remember that movie like it was yesterday. I mean, that's actually, a solid Paul Walker film.
I mean, yeah, think about it. Paul Walker's dead, and Lily Sobieski isn't even acting anymore. She's like retired from acting at this point.
That's true. And here's a knowledge nugget. Ted Levine, the man who played Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs, does the villain Rusty Nail's voice, but goes uncredited. Also, Matthew,
well done.
Yeah, and also Matthew Kimbrough, who had roles in American Beauty and Catch Me If You Can, also did Rusty Nail's voice and goes uncredited. I think the whole thing with Rusty Nail going uncredited is just to kind of build the mythology of the character, kind of keep him mysterious, because there's like not a real listing for the character on IMDb or anything.
And looking into this to refresh for it here this week, Walton Goggins was in the movie. His scene was deleted, but he was in it. I feel like he's a very underrated actor.
I agree. I loved him on The Shield. I even liked him in Sons of Anarchy. He was good in Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Also, the Royal Gemstones, the television show with him. John Goodman's in it. I don't know why. Adam Devine. And why can I...
Is it Danny McBride?
Thank you. I don't know why. I could picture Danny McBride, and his name just went blank.
Everybody keeps telling me I need to watch that show. That's how I know that he's on it. Everybody.
I don't know what's going on. As far as I know, they were signed on to do multiple seasons, but COVID happened, so I don't know. But the first season was entertaining, and again, just like Joyride, anybody I know that I had watch it doesn't find it hilarious. It's well done.
Yeah, I remember I didn't see Joyride in theaters. I remember that was a Blockbuster rental, and I think my sister had a crush on Paul Walker at the time, and I remember watching it.
I'm sure most girls around our age and a little bit older did at that time.
Yeah, and so I watched it with my mom and sister, and we really liked it. But yeah, so to think back on that, it's been a while since I've seen it. I do own it, but I have. It's one of those ones where when you own a library of movies, there's a lot of movies you just don't get to that collect dust. And that's why it's hard sometimes to like, should I keep it? Because I never get to watch it. But then you're like, nah, because one day is going to come where I'm going to want to watch it. And I think that day just came.
That happened with me. I bought it on Vudu because, you know me, I just buy all my shit on Vudu, and basically I just go for whatever's on sale and buy a bunch of it.
Hell yeah. And
Joyride popped up on Vudu, and I was like, I gotta buy it. It's $5. And then every time I keep passing, I'm like, I'd never watch it though. And the same thing happened. One night I was like, I ain't seen Joyride in like 4 or 5 years. I should watch this.
It's a satisfying watch. But by the way though, you said the I Spit on Your Grave remake celebrates its anniversary this year, and that is another one that is hard to fucking believe that it has been 11 years since that remake. Damn, dude. I mean, where the hell does time go?
I don't know, because for me that was one I never got around to watch it. So,
oh man, that is just an amazing remake, man. That's top tier. Like that's a top tier remake with The Thing and The Fly and The Blob and The Hills Have Eyes and Maniac. It's better than the first, no question. I've been a fan of the original since I was in high school, but the remake makes things it made things so much worse and so much better at the same time. The revenge is goddamn amazing, but the harassment of Jennifer Hills wasn't just discomforting to watch, it was anger inducing. Like it pissed me off watching it, and that is obviously the type of reaction that they're going for when they make a movie like that. So great job. It's like the original though, where I can't stomach to watch it more than once every year or two. Every year or two I might watch it. It's just too heavy. It's a satisfying watch, but it's too heavy. So I'm definitely gonna have to get you to watch that at some point.
Did that come out before or after The Last House on the Left remake?
I can't remember, but I want to say that it was before, but
that doesn't help me because I was going to see if maybe you thought the same as me, and I thought it came out after. I mean, I can.
Are you talking about the original or
the remake?
The remake.
The remake.
I think the remake might have came out Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I know that it's
Hold on.
better.
I'll just look it up. Real
I'll tell you
quick.
that right now, though. The I Spit on Your Grave remake is 100% better than the Last House on the Left remake.
I want to say it came out after, but
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it came out after.
yeah, because it was 2010 for the I Spit on Your Grave remake, and 2010. Okay, so yeah, the Last House on the Left remake came first because I want to say I think
It
that's
came first, really? That's surprising.
because I remember I watched the original Last House on the Left as we've discussed, and right after that I was like I heard that like I Spit on Your Grave was kind of in the same vein, kind of like along that revenge kind of movie. So I checked that out and I liked that, and then the Last House on the Left remake came out and I was like, oh, this is nowhere near the original. And then I remember they were like, well, I feel like it kind of makes sense now that it did come after, because then they announced the I Spit on Your Grave remake, and I was just like, well, I didn't like the Last House on the Left one, but so it sounds like I should have reversed it and watched that one and skipped the Last House on the Left one.
Yeah, they pulled a switcheroo. Like what happened was, the original Last House on the Left is better than I Spit on Your Grave, in my opinion. I like the original Last House on the Left more, even though I like both films. But when it comes to the remakes, the remake of I Spit on Your Grave just absolutely chews up and spits out the remake of Last House on the Left. Last House on the Left is like, it's kind of more of the same with some things different that they push the boundaries on, but not much. I Spit on Your Grave was just, they pushed the boundaries from the jump on that one, and that was like, they elevated it. It wasn't one of those ones where they didn't. It's not more of the same. It's the same plot, but what happens, the revenge, the way everything is done, it's completely different, and it's like it elevates things. Part of that movie, and with the Last House on the Left as well, is with these revenge movies, is the revenge is the main point. These horrible things happen, so like by the time you get to that revenge, that's the payoff. You get to watch these fuckers pay for what they did. And in the I Spit on Your Grave remake, I mean, it's almost as if she goes too far with it. So that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to check that out. I should have just skipped the Last House on the Left remake, and then I probably would have watched the I Spit on Your Grave remake. I just figured it after seeing Last House on the Left remake, it was just gonna kind of be the same thing with I Spit on Your Grave, so I just kind of never got around to watching it. And to be honest, I never really heard much of anything about the remake one way or the other, to be honest.
Yeah, the Last House on the Left remake was more commercial, so that also should give you the heads up on, the I Spit on Your Grave one being, better, because if it's lying low and less heard of, then okay, something's up with this one. It's not as commercial, therefore they probably did some shit or got away with some stuff that's going to make the casual viewer uncomfortable. It's I want you to watch it because there's two sides to I Spit on Your Grave, actually, and Joe Bob Briggs, our boy Joe Bob Briggs, who we love, has talked about this. There's two groups of people. There's people that say that that I Spit on Your Grave encourages bad behavior, like male chauvinistic behavior and rape and brutality towards women. And then there's those that say that it doesn't encourage that behavior, that it shows how horrible that behavior is by making them get a revenge taken upon them that is absolutely brutal, like getting cocks cut off and things like that. So it's like there's actually a debate of people who are like, oh, they think that watching that movie you're like pro rape and things like that, and that's
Never
crazy
made
to
sense to me.
That's crazy to me. You're watching the movie, you're watching what these people are doing, but you're not supposed to enjoy that. The point of the movie is the revenge, and I don't know who's not getting that. I think it all started because somebody during the screening of the original I Spit on Your Grave like stood up. It was like it was like cheering the guys on as they were like harassing harassing and raping the character Jennifer Hills. Somebody like stood up and applauded. So some critic was like, this movie like encourages people to act that way, and I'm like, there might be one or two sick fucks out there who get off on that type of thing.
You're gonna find crazies everywhere.
Yeah, but the casual viewer, you're not watching that to like watch somebody get hurt and in pain like that. You're never watching a film for whatever reason, guy, girl, whatever their situation is, rape, not rape, whatever. You're never watching a film to watch that person be in pain. You're there to watch them overcome that. So it's always been crazy to me that argument exists. So when you watch it, we'll rebound and talk about it, and you can tell me, which I have a hard time believing you're going to say that the movie is pro pro-rape and harassing women.
So I guess George Lucas is in favor of tyrannical government since he has one in his in Star Wars. So I think with that, we'll move on to Puff Puff Ask, the segment of the show where Drew and I answer questions that you send in to us via social media at High on Horror 420 on Instabook, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
I'll start us off here with a question from a listener named Clayton from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
We know his name, Clayton. If anybody sees Steven Silverman, you'll get it. If not, I'm just an idiot, which a lot of people think that anyway.
Yep. Anyway, Clayton wants to know, is there any one specific horror movie that you guys find yourselves rewatching a lot when you relax and have downtime? Absolutely, but it's not one movie for me. I would say that I have like a cycle of movies that I kind of go through, like
Yes.
a handful, Return of the Living Dead, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Reanimator. That's, and more recently it's been Psycho Gorman. It's usually funny stuff. Like those are because I can kick back, relax, have something lighthearted on. I'm not the type of guy that could just like kick his feet up and relax, crack a beer open and watch a Salo or something. Like it's like, if I'm relaxing, I want to watch
Never once
something.
would picture Salo as a background movie. You just like do fucking housework.
Yeah,
or
right.
fucking
You just like,
other shit.
oh wait,
Background.
they're
That's rough, especially on the day of shit. Real rough.
you got to stop in the middle of what you're doing. Oh wait, it's the day of shit. We got to watch this part.
That raspberry looking sausage.
Dude, I remember the first time I made you watch Silo. I told you about what it was. I told you about it like a week before I made you watch it, and you didn't say anything to me. Like there was no response when I told you what it's about. You just kind of stared at me. So I was like, I don't know if he's down to watch this or not.
I mean, it was a lot to take in when you told me. But I'm telling you, them turds look like raspberry jam or something mixed with like Italian sausage.
I remember you were telling everybody about it when you saw it. I remember you telling me everybody about it when you saw it, man. That shit was hilarious. So those are the ones, Return of the Living Dead, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Psycho Gorman, Reanimator. But, really, because, I have such limited time, especially recently, what I try to do is, I actually try to watch something new whenever I have downtime to kind of expand my knowledge, watch something from a director I haven't seen or a new movie that's on Shudder just to keep up with what's going on. Even though I'm disappointed most of the time, honestly.
For me, it's a lot of slashers, not surprisingly. Friday the 13th, Part 6. It hasn't been in the rotation lately. I feel like maybe I've got it out of my system getting to talk to everybody we've had on. And maybe some more from Part 6 as well, maybe coming up in the future. That one's, a lot of times I'll just play Halloween in the background. I've been playing Terrifier a lot in the background, even though that's more visually brutal than the other ones that I've named.
It's still one that you can kind of relax to, though.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it so many times that you're like, if I've taken a little nap for 20 minutes, I wake up, I know what I missed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He pulled out the gun. All right.
Saw him through a taint.
Saw him through a taint. Child's Play 2. That and Friday the 13th, Part 6 through the years, I feel like have just been my background horror movies.
Between how much me and you have watched, or you and I have watched Child's Play 2, and then how much you have watched it on your own, that's got to be record numbers.
It's got to be up there. And then for a long time, one that I was watching a lot was The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I love that movie.
I don't know that's kind of weird. That's an outlier on the list of movies that you should just have playing in the background. That's a pretty heavy movie.
It is, especially if someone hasn't seen it and they come in the room and they just see a naked mermaid laying there, just
That
full
mermaid
frontal.
puss.
Oh.
And then to quote our producer Josh, Robert Pattinson just cranking hog out in the shed.
Cranking hog. Never
Dude,
heard that term before,
Dude,
but I love it. I
It's
dig
a
it.
great one. But yeah, man, I fucking love The Lighthouse. I I feel like for record numbers, I'm sure.
Hold on. Why did you feel the need to bring that up? I gotta know. You can talk about the lighthouse, but what's the point? What was? Why
Because
did you
you
have
were
to throw
talking
that?
about if you see people walk in and they just see like mermaid puss, and I was saying, or Robert Pattinson, and then using Josh's term, crank and Hulk.
Oh Christ! Oh my God! All right, move on. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah, I feel like you talk about Child's Play for most watched. I'm sure there's probably some weirdo person out there that's got me beat, but I got to be like in the top 15 of most like watch times of The Lighthouse. And then moving on to our second question. George from Falls Church, Virginia said, we talk a lot about horror movies here on PPA, but we don't really talk about weed too much. And he wanted to know, besides obviously watching horror movies, what do we like to do when we smoke? That one's easy for me. I like watching, still movies, but like right now, as I've mentioned a couple times, I've been watching through The Sopranos before the movie comes out. But I do like playing video games a lot. Usually play with our buddies Raz, Armani, and Kenny online. We the best club in FIFA, boys. Or play some NHL. But it's usually just watching other stuff or playing games. And I do end up watching a lot of trash TV, like some terrible reality shows like Wife Swap with Nicole that are just so terrible, but I can't stop watching them.
you just find yourself staring at the screen laughing, and you're like 40 minutes in, and you're like, "Why didn't I turn this off?"
That, and then like she'll put on Hoarders. Man, that show makes me like actually depressed to watch. But then I'm like, at least I'm not that bad of keeping shit.
If anything, I'm a hoarder with all my fucking movies. I'm gonna need a second house with all this bullshit.
I guess you gotta tell Sam to move out. You need room for the movies.
Well, I'll just live outside. The movies can have my spot. They can just have my side of the bed and everything.
You like that guy? I think it was like a True Life back in the day where he bought all them fucking mannequins.
Oh yeah,
And he had to buy a fucking second apartment.
that's like some maniac shit. I'm surprised he's not scalping people and hammering their scalps to it. So that's a weirdo right
Willie
there.
Zaza from The Godfather.
I can't imagine telling a chick, telling a woman like, hey, yo, like, come over to my place. I own a bunch of man. It's just weird. That's just a weird, I don't know.
I feel that most ladies that come over and see that are pretty sure they're going to die that night.
Yeah, I would think that that's like let me send a picture of this person to my friend so they know who I'm with right now.
I mean, like somebody brings me over, I'd be like, all right, bro. Oh shit, I got to call. Oh man, I got to go.
Well, to answer the question though, what I find myself doing when I'm just getting baked is I love to read. I'm always reading. I usually,
Nerd.
yeah, I own it too. I love reading. Reading puts my mind and heart at peace sometimes, especially with PTSD. Like it helps me. It's a good distraction, getting lost, especially when you're reading a good book. Finding a good book is key. If I don't find a good book, rather, like my mind's just going to race when I'm reading. And I'm sure that happens to a lot of people. They'll read and their mind will race. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't read. That just means you haven't found the right book. And especially,
I got to audiobook it.
well, I mean, either way, but yeah, when I get baked, I like to read a lot, and I also like to watch extras on like new movies I bought, because that's another escape for me. I love spending time just learning about movies, so I like to just like those are the times that I kind of cherish the most. And then of course watching like reruns of old shows like The Shield or that '70s show with my wife. Those are pretty much the things that I like to do when I'm just having downtime and getting baked. Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a video game player like John, but I did, however, just buy the new UFC game, or the newest UFC game, even though I haven't had time to practice yet. So I'm going to try to really put some time in over the next 2 weeks so I can fuck my boy John up over here.
Nate all day, dog.
Man, we used to have some fucking brawls back in the day, so let's do it.
I mean, it's all went downhill since UFC won for of the EA ones.
But the whole thing is, it's not even at the end there. It became more about just getting baked and just laughing at the fights and the glitches. So I mean, a lot of times when we would get knocked out, we used to get mad. Towards the end, we would crack up and just be like, I don't even know how that happened.
I still never got to settle that rubber match of Kenny with Miles Fury Jury against my boy Michael the Maverick Chiesa.
We'll set that up in the future. Yeah, But yeah, so I mean, I'm not against video games, so I'm going to try to break that more in because I have taken a break from them. But yeah, I mean, that's what I like to do when I'm smoking. I mean, and just just read and watch extras.
You know, another thing I like to do, and I'm sure a lot of people do the same thing, is just I'll get stuck on a Wikipedia like rabbit hole. I'll search for something on Wikipedia. Next thing I know, I'm at 8 links later. The one I always say is I wanted to look up something like what Wikipedia had to say about Jesus. I just want to see what it said. Yeah, I was super baked. 2 hours later, I'm reading about adoption in the Roman Empire and learning about how the adoption system worked. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing right now?
See, you say I'm a nerd, but at least I have my time allocated. I'm doing shit I want to do on my time. You're just waking up mid shit, just realizing, oh, what am I doing? Why am I reading this? See,
I mean,
I have a plan.
It got deep.
That's
I went from Jesus to like reading about the movie Gladiator and how actually Russell Crowe's character's like 7 different people combined into one person. Then I'm reading about why somebody said his name was written incorrectly, and I'm like, how the hell would they know that? And they're like, I'm clicking, reading about the naming system. Then I'm reading about adoption, and I was like, yeah, what the hell? All I wanted to do was look up to see what Wikipedia had listed for Jesus as the entry, and now I'm reading about adoption in the Roman Empire. It's like 3:30 in the morning. I think it's time to go to bed.
You don't go to bed till later than that.
I know,
quit
but
playing.
I try.
But no, what happens to me is I don't get caught up in reading stuff like that. But like, I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, yo, I know that dude from somewhere, and I'll look him up on IMDb, and then I'll look at the movies that they've been in, and I'll click on it, and then when I'm looking at that movie, I'll see somebody who was in that movie that I'm like, oh, I remember them too, or I remember this movie. Next thing I know, like 20 minutes later, I'll be caught up in. Like, oh, why am I reading about this movie? This is like 8 movies ago from what I was supposed, but here I am talking about, you, and I actually do the same thing. Again, it's just movies with me. I'm just a nerd.
I think a lot of our listeners, it's not always not saying it's the same subject, but you go to search something on Wikipedia and then you just end up spending hours on Wikipedia, just and you're like, how did I get this far from what I was looking for?
Exactly. And, with that, I think that we're ready to move on. So don't forget to write in your questions to us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at highonhorror420 or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. The mail's been bumping lately. We really appreciate hearing from you all. Eventually, we'll get into a part where we do more than 2 letters a week, but right now that's kind of our system. But thank you all for writing. We're definitely sometimes it's hard to filter through these letters, man. It really is, like, well, not letters, but emails and messages on Facebook and stuff. It's like reading them, it's like some of them are pretty good, some of them are let's just say, just if your letter hasn't been read yet, don't think that it's been left behind. There may be a point when, like, there might be a message that was sent to us 3 months ago that you'll hear 3 months from now. You never know. So the good ones get kept. So please keep writing us. We love hearing from you. And now it's time to get into our review/discussion of this week's film, Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
The year's 1982. Michael Myers is killed off a year ago, and they decide to take the Halloween franchise in a new direction, and that gives us Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, which came out in 1982. After killing off Michael in the previous entry, they decided to go the anthology route, and this is the first film to be written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill return as producers. And this story picks up on October 23rd in Northern California. Shop owner Harry Gimbridge is chased along a barren road by mysterious men in suits, and then he's almost killed by one man who's crushed to death but remains silent as he dies. He makes it to the gas station clutching a jack-o'-lantern mask, and then he's driven to the hospital, where we meet Dr. Daniel Chalice, played by Tom Atkins. He fucks. And he's an alcoholic doctor who has a poor relationship with his ex-wife and 2 children. And that night, another man in a suit enters Harry's hospital room, murders him, and then sets himself on fire when Daniel tries to pursue him. A few days later, Daniel's confronted in a bar by Harry's daughter, Ellie, who's played by today's guest, Stacey Nelkin, and they head to find out more about what happened and what that mask he was clutching had to do with everything. And they end up finding the Silver Shamrock novelties located in Santa Mira, California, and then that's when the fun begins.
Okay, so I'm going to take a second and tell you, here's my story about with Halloween 3. As you all know by now, I grew up watching Tales from the Crypt and horror movies with my mom, so I followed her lead for a long time in regards of what to watch. We were movie buddies, and my mom absolutely hated Season of the Witch. She called it dumb and stupid, and I was young, I agreed with her. No, Michael, what? Fuck you, man. But as I got older, I branched out on my own, and my mom and sister, they planted the seed in my brain, the love of horror, the seed in my brain. But as I got older, I realized that it was mostly commercial horror that we watched and that they watched. And it was never, it was whatever was available at the video store. So, as I got older, I got a little more bougie about watching movies, and I wanted to expand my viewing beyond what just the video store had. So I'd go to the mall and other stores and magazine catalogs. I'd order movies from catalogs. That's how I first saw I Spit on Your Grave. It came in the mail. I knew my mom and sister wouldn't want to watch that. They didn't have the want like I did to explore the boundaries of the genre. They more or less played it safe with what they watched, and that's fine. I wanted to know the genre though, and I had the bug bad. And also, it'd be a little weird watching I Spit on Your Grave with your mom and sister, if you ask me.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's been like horror movies that I'm like, I don't know, this would be weird to watch with my sister.
Yeah, but there are just certain movies that are just like no, but yeah, these were ways of accessing movies for me, and that's how I got to see Reanimator, and a whole lot more. And by the time I was 16, I was suggesting movies to my mom and sister to watch. The role switched. Anyway, since I'd matured as a film viewer and my knowledge expanded because I was reading books and magazines and on everything, like Fangoria, and it dawned on me, man, I need to rewatch Season of the Witch and give it another shot, and because I was finding out that my sister and mom and I had a drastic difference of opinion on some things, and my sister and my mom and we all had a drastic difference of opinion on some movies, and we didn't agree on movies all the time like we used to. So, my mom doesn't like Reanimator, for example, and I just can't even fathom how that's possible. Someone can't like that movie, But anyway, I realized that I owed it to myself to see if Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a good film after all. I mean, of course, I love Tom Atkins. Night of the Creeps is his definitive role, in my opinion, is Ray Cameron. But I liked everything he was just about in. The Fog, Escape from New York. He stayed in that Carpenter circle of movies. So, I liked his stuff.
Stash.
That's right. and so I just never got around to rewatching it for years. It's one of those ones I planned to rewatch, but then I just never got around to it until John here said that it was time, and he put it on me, and I liked it. As a standalone film, honestly, it's a strong outing, and it's a good film for the Halloween season to watch around Halloween time. I'm sold. I wouldn't say I love it, but I wouldn't say I love a lot of the Halloween films in the series. I can say I enjoy them all to an extent, but love is a strong word.
And I always didn't like Halloween 3. Even when I was young, my dad used to always defend Halloween 3 and just say, you need to take it as its own movie. I was too young to do that. To me, it was Halloween. There was no Michael. How could this be good? Joe Bob further enforced that when I remember watching it on Monster Vision, and he just tore Halloween 3 apart. And then years later, I was like, you know what, maybe I think at that point it had been like 10, 15 years since I had seen it. I had been like a young kid, and I'm like, my taste in movies has evolved. Because, when you're younger, there's some movies that are long, and as a kid, you just couldn't pay attention. Then you rewatch it when you're older, and you're like, damn, that was an amazing movie. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it another chance. And I love it. Like, it's a good story. The music's creepy. Like, I love the ending. I can understand why people don't like the ending. Like, Nicole, for example, hates ambiguous endings. I like them when they're done right.
Agreed.
And that was one of the first movies that really made me like that. And I'm like, because I remember asking my dad, I'm like, originally I'm like, what happened? And he's like, it's up to you to decide what happened. And I'm like, damn, I kind of like that. Like, you don't know, like, and it works when it's done well. There's times when it's terrible, but I feel like that was one of the first movies that I was like, wow, that was really well done. And then you and I talked about it, and I figured you would have liked it because of your expertise of not Halloween, of horror just being more than mine. And you were like, no, I don't like it. And then, yeah, convinced you to read like, I remember you messaged me. You were like, man, it's really good. I like the whole story, and I really wonder if it worked, how well a Halloween anthology, like the whole series being an anthology.
And how it would have worked.
You would have had less terrible Michael Myers sequels and, well, Halloween sequels. You would have no. I don't think you would ever got frozen meatballs.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got no.
You might have got Rob Zombie. I still think you would have got Rob Zombie. Maybe an H2O. But I don't think you would have had the like Jamie Lloyd like saga or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Jamie Lloyd trilogy. I don't think that's even a name for it.
Well, I gotta say though that you had brought up, how you like movies that are ambiguous, and I 100% agree. That I like to think, and I don't like movies spelled out for me. If you can pull a movie off right and entertain me enough, and then leave me with the right hook, I'm cool with that. But I will say that I think that due to myself being a nihilist, that I find myself liking the ambiguous films that tend to have like a darker twist.
Yes.
Like Prisoners. You remember that movie Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal about like how that ended, where like he's in the hole and the car's parked over the hole and he's screaming for help, and like Jake Gyllenhaal, like he hears something, but then like you're like he looks around like, maybe did I hear that? And then it just cuts, and you're like, oh shit, did he hear him? Does he help him? In my mind, he didn't help him. And in
Shutter Island.
Yeah, exactly. I
take the approach that he just went back to being crazy and it didn't work. And like Nicole takes the complete opposite, and so I know what you mean. Like me, I'm like, nope. Because I always argue with her. I'm like, well, it never worked before, so why is this like 40th time they're doing it magically going to work this time?
Right. I find myself liking those dark endings, or the darker option rather that you can have. And Season of the Witch is the same thing. We'll talk about that later, but I feel that at the ending, although some people say that, everything was stopped and saved, in my mind, I just don't, that's not my version of the film. I appreciate, usually when a director says, like, oh, this was my intent, I kind of go along with that because I kind of want to see it from their perspective. Like, that was his art. I want to see what he was doing, so I try to see it from their perspective. But Halloween 3 is one movie where I'm like, no, I don't see it that way. Like, I think that it's such a better ending if nobody stops the commercial from playing. I think that's such a better ending.
Let's talk about Dan O'Hurley.
As Colonel Cochran.
Oh, man. Dude, he's so fucking good. Like, he's just so creepy.
He's a good villain, for sure.
Whenever I think of him, I just think of him doing the slow, just sitting there doing the slow clap.
And that monotone. Like, he's just monotone, just
talking about the history. You with
hard facts.
The history of Samhain.
Yep.
And he's just going through, like, talking about how the hills ran red with blood, like, on Halloween night. I'm like, damn, like, it's pretty good shit.
Yeah, I want to have him read a story to my son, a bedtime story to my son.
Well, he's dead, so I don't think he'll be doing that.
Well, back in the... You know what I mean. Back in the day.
He's not on Cameo, dog.
I wish that he would have done audiobooks. He should have done audiobooks with his voice. There you go, that you could play for kids. Of course, Dan O'Hurley's passed, but what about our the best assassin in the film, our boy with the best name in the world, Dick Warlock. Dick Warlock is in the movie, man. Michael Myers from Halloween 2.
That is my Chipotle name. They don't always... There's been worse ones I've made Chipotle put on there, and they've played along with it. But sometimes they don't put Dick Warlock on there. I don't think they believe it's my real name.
I feel like with Dick Warlock, though, the motherfucking is almost like a guaranteed middle name. It's just at that point now.
Dick motherfucking Warlock?
It just can't. It's Dick motherfucking Warlock at this point, man. Like that. What a legendary name. And that dude's he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a legend in the business, man.
And also cameo in Halloween 3 from Jamie Lee Curtis, the PA announcer in the town.
Yep, that's right.
And also the clips from Halloween 1 on the television.
Correct, yeah. And you had mentioned that Tommy Lee Wallace had, wrote and directed this. and he actually did the 1990 It TV miniseries starring Tim Curry. So, Tommy Lee Wallace is definitely talented. We should have seen a lot more from him. I wish we'd gotten a lot more from him.
Was that his next film after this where he directed?
I believe it was. I'm
me
not
see.
entirely sure.
No. Wow. He did Aloha Summer and Fright Night Part 2.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he did Fright Night Part 2. Yes, I forgot about that. That's right.
And then also, he did the sequel to Vampires. What is it with him? Just like John Carpenter did something, and John's like, I'm done with this. Tommy's like, yeah, I'll come in and do something with it.
Hey, man, you know what? I don't blame him. A quick payday. Let's do it. I totally.
And I mean, I like Tommy Lee Wallace. I don't mean to sound like I'm dragging the guy.
What about Nancy Keys? She's in the film as Linda Chalice.
Yeah, the disgruntled, separated. I don't think they're divorced.
I don't think they're divorced yet, or they might be, but they're definitely not together. That's for sure. There's
the best girl
animosity.
from Halloween, Annie, best girl.
I would agree with that, definitely.
I probably thankfully I did not say that to PJ Souls. Way better.
Yeah, PJ Soul, she was awesome.
Yo, and the mask.
I was going to say that, and also,
can't believe it took us this long to get to them.
Right, the masks, absolutely, they're awesome. The costumes are just awesome, and now that they're just iconic. When you see their silhouettes on the poster, gotta love it. And the song, of course, there's the song that just gets stuck in your head every goddamn time you hear it. Every time you hear that, every time you watch that movie, they play that song so many times in that movie that it's impossible. If it was once or twice or three times, but it is I almost feel like I would have to go back and count, because maybe it just seems like it's more than it is, but I feel like that song's on loop through the whole movie.
My mom, I don't know, at least since I've been alive, I do not remember her ever watching Halloween 3. I don't know if she watched it before I was born, but my mom knows the Silver Shamrock song, and she's never seen the movie. It's just that iconic.
It's funny because it's iconic, yet it's an underdog. It's the underdog of the series, so that goes to show you that although people didn't like it or haven't seen it, that enough of it got around that people even caught on to the song.
And Carpenter did the music for this as well.
You can tell. If you're for the uninitiated, you should. I mean, the uninitiated wouldn't know that, but anybody in their right mind who goes into that.
I don't know. I feel like if you've seen Halloween, just seen Halloween and watch Halloween 3, you probably think the same guy did the music.
You should know. You should know.
I gotta say, is that Carpenter's second best work? After Halloween, is that the
what,
best
Halloween 3? You think Halloween 3 is his?
Music
wise. Okay, I was going to say, hold on a second.
No, I wouldn't.
First of all, he didn't direct this. Tommy Lee Wallace did,
3.
but being involved in the movie, it's not his second.
I just mean
the
music.
The music.
Just that when it's filling in the lines in the beginning.
All right, you know what? A lot of people will probably disagree with me. That's really, God damn, you're making me try to think.
I know.
I think
really
I'm gonna say
probably
Prince
say
of Darkness. I think Prince of Darkness is my second, because that score is really fucking creepy.
Prince of Darkness is a good one. I mean, let's be fair.
Pick one that isn't good. Try that.
I was going to say, to be fair, I don't know that there's necessarily a wrong choice here for Carpenter.
Correct.
Says second, but I mean, top 3, because I'm like, damn, that's good. Then I think Escape from New York.
Yep. Assault from Precinct 13, bro.
Assault from Precinct 13. I know. After the first time we saw that together for the first time. You got it on Blu-ray, and that shit was stuck in our head. I fucking made it my ringtone.
I remember I saw you a couple days later, and I randomly was just like, bam, 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 bam. And you were like, dude, I was doing that too.
Dude, it's sketchy. Carpenter, you can say what you will about some of the films he's directed, but I don't think there's...
Maybe towards the latter end of his career, but if you're coming at him towards the beginning, middle of his career, you're tripping.
But I'm saying maybe towards the end, director-wise, but music-wise, I can't think of anything bad he's done.
I mean, yeah, even I mean, I was gonna say the Halloween 2018 soundtrack kicked ass.
And I mean, the funny thing is, before his involvement, you tell me in the 2018 Halloween we're going to change the theme, we're going to make little alterations to it. I'm going to be mad. And then John Carpenter releases that, and I'm like, damn, that's good. Especially, I think you and I both said like the at the Iron Gate, Wrought Iron Gate. That one was real
Yeah.
well. Well, I'm trying to remember what it was they ran across. There was
Yeah, there was a video that they had put out.
I can't remember. I think it was like a violin string on a guitar
a bow on
something.
a bow on a guitar. Yeah.
It made that.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Was the thing about Carpenter's music that I like, and I think that a lot of people like, is that Carpenter was a rocker, obviously, and like there's always even in things like The Fog, where it's more like piano tones. There's always this like undertone of like rock or metal, like in that new Halloween film, like when like the bathroom scene. You remember, like before he puts his mask on, when that chord's like screeching, and it's like there is absolutely like a rock like feel to that. You're like, this isn't rock, this is rap, this isn't hip hop. Like this is definitely like this is like a high shrill horror like rock soundtrack. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even in the Mouth of Madness, that opening song. Tell me that ain't a rock jam.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times on Spotify I've just been driving around with John Carpenter's theme, just that album just playing on repeat.
Oh yeah, the themes one.
Yeah, the themes one, and I just have it on shuffle. I was like, I wonder how many people are like, this guy's out here in mid-July playing the Halloween theme. Like,
yeah, it's funny because I was just
They Live. I mean,
yeah,
they're all good.
Yeah, I was just actually yeah, I still listen to CDs. I'm old school, and I was putting in the Bullet for My Valentine CD in my car the other day, and it's like it holds like 6 discs, 1 through 5 are full, and I was checking them, and disc 1 in the disc 1 slot was the Halloween 2018 soundtrack. I thought I lost it, so I was like, awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, yes, I mean, I'm good if you are.
I mean, I feel like we kind of got away from Halloween 3 here.
Yeah, we did get away from Halloween 3. Let's backtrack it a little bit.
Yeah, let's rein that back. We just talked about John Carpenter for probably a good 7-8 minutes.
I mean, you can't bring up the Halloween series without talking about John Carpenter. But I mean, let's just put it this way, though. Part of the reason that Halloween 3, that I do like it and that you like it, and I think other people have grown to like it, is because even though Michael isn't in it, you still definitely feel John Carpenter's presence behind that film. It still almost feels it feels more like a John Carpenter film than Halloween 2 did.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess John wasn't really involved till towards the end of Halloween 2. And I mean,
But he still reshot some scenes and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not the same.
and I imagine him and Tommy Lee Wallace were much closer, so I'm sure Carpenter had some influence in that movie.
A lot of helping hands and advice and
It
shit,
wasn't
I'm
the
sure.
same as Rick Rosenthal with part 2. Just some guy wasn't a part of the original coming in to direct the second one.
Correct. Yeah, he was part of the team, tight knit. He knew how it worked. He knew how it went down.
But not to go back to John Carpenter once again, but we talked about it. The idea was to make it an anthology series. Do you think if that would have kept going that route, do you think John would have kept involvement in it through all the years, like in the different entries?
I mean, Carpenter tells you himself, he'll say it himself, he's a capitalist. So, I mean,
I ain't got no problem with that.
I feel that he's probably he would probably stay on like how he is in the new Halloween films. I feel that he would have been involved at least doing soundtracks or something. And it probably would have been one of those things where every now and again, if a story came up that was good enough, he'd probably come back to the series. I don't feel like he'd be like directing all of them, but I could see him coming back and directing an original story like 4 movies later or something, kind of bouncing back. Like, he was the type of dude that if the story was there and the money was there, he was there. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice. I feel like it would have saved us from some bad Halloween movies.
I mean, that's facts, but
I mean, there's still, I'm sure at some point in this anthology series would have had some not so good entries.
that's what I was gonna say.
But
We're
it
giving
doesn't
this.
ruin Michael.
That's true. And I mean, had there been a series of movies after Halloween 3 that continued not having Michael in them. I feel that Michael coming back for like H2O or something like that would have just been so much more epic. But I feel that them going back to what worked just ended up leading to oversaturation and ultimately like people losing sight of what the movies were about. After when Michael comes back after Halloween 3 here, when we do see Michael again in
6
Halloween
years
4,
later, right?
yeah, when we see him again, he's an ox. He's not a normal guy anymore.
With them shoulder pads.
Yeah, he's a buff, tall, broad man, and
he got blonde, like bleach blonde hair at times.
because they wanted
brown.
Michael to compete with Jason. But Jason was always big, so that was the thing. Was Mustafa Akkad was like he has to be big, he has to like compete with Jason.
See, that was his problem though. Michael got too yoked, and then Buster Rhymes was able to move with fluidity and just hit him with them round spinning roundhouses, and Michael was too. He's too buff. He fatigued early.
We don't need to talk about Halloween Resurrection. We can just skip Halloween Resurrection altogether. But Halloween 3, definitely a classic. And I think that it's great that people like, Stacey Nelkin and even Tom Atkins, who's, he's really gotten a lot of acclaim throughout his career with everything he's done. But just the fact that people are finally getting praise for this movie now, all those years later, I mean, that's got to feel weird. I can't imagine working on a movie and like having it just be like panned. And then like all these years later, like, just decades later, people just, oh wow, everybody loves it. And, it's kind of like, it's like how Edgar Allan Poe, like, once he passed, he became popular. Not that anybody in the movies passed. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's like sometimes fame comes like decades after it's deserved. And that's the case with this movie. I have to say, I agree. I think that this movie's a classic, and I'm happy with it. I'm definitely convinced. John definitely convinced me.
And I was going to say, it's got to be weird for both of them, but it's just a normal occurrence for John Carpenter with pretty much anything he's involved in.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, pretty much everything he did after Halloween was like, oh, this movie's terrible. 8 years later, this movie's a masterpiece.
But I will say, though, I guess one last thing that I'll end on with what I wanted to say is that this movie is the movie where I kind of tied it together. That not kind of, well, I knew it was just another one that was just like, damn, it was like the Undertaker's undefeated streak when I finally rewatched Halloween 3 and I saw Tom Atkins' character hook up with Ellie. I was like, dude, this guy legitimately like hooks up every movie he's in. Like in The Fog, in The Fog, he got Jamie Lee Curtis.
He's a coxman.
Yeah, in Halloween 3, he gets Ellie, and then in Night of the Creeps, he doesn't really have like a love interest, but he plays like
himself.
He plays a heartbroken detective. But it's ironic because although there aren't women in that movie that he has like scenes with or anything, that movie is when it gets brought up where females of the horror genre love him. Every time it's like Tom Atkins, it's Halloween 3 and it's Night of the Creeps. Something about him being angry with a cigar and drinking. And all that machismo, all that machismo is just like that. Like Tom Atkins literally defines like sexuality for men, like in the horror genre. Like he is like Tom Atkins is a motherfucking man. Let's put it that way. That's a man's man right there.
It's funny. I'll go back to my Sopranos reference since I've been watching it. Tony always brings up whatever happened to Gary Cooper. I kind of feel, well, whatever happened to a Tom Atkins kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nowadays, if people wear mustaches, you get called a kitty diddler.
You a Freddy Krueger dog? Yeah,
a lot of days when people wear mustaches, it's like, oh, it's weird, and only a few people can actually pull off the stash, honestly, but some people you look at it and you're like, yo, they look ridiculous. Other people, you're like, yo, it belongs with them. Tom Atkins, I can't picture him without it. Like, the stash is it. Like, everybody's drawn into that. I am drawn to that mustache.
So I think it's time to get into Burn and Learn, the segment of our show where we fill you in on some behind-the-scenes facts about our movie and discussion. In this case, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh. Burn and Learn.
As John mentioned, Jamie Lee Curtis makes a cameo in the film. It's a voice cameo. She's the phone operator Tom Atkins keeps talking to when he's making outgoing calls.
Everyone's favorite jingle, the Silver Shamrock song used in the film, stole the beat from London Bridge Has Fallen Down because it was in public domain.
The Witch, Pumpkin, and Skull Mask were mass-produced and sold in retail stores to promote the film by Don Post Studios, who actually used the original molds of the masks from the film for their reproductions.
The town Santa Mira was also the town used in the film Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956.
Despite the film tanking, the novelization actually sold a lot of books in 1982 and became a bestseller, and it was later reprinted 2 years later in 1984.
The gas station in Halloween 3 is also the gas station in The Fog.
The Silver Shamrock Factory was set in a paper pulp factory.
Joe Dante of Gremlins and The Howling fame was originally supposed to direct Halloween 3.
It took the visual effects designer almost a month to complete the background of the opening title of the film.
Garn Stevens, who played Marge Gutman in Halloween 3, was actually married to Tom Atkins at the time.
Nearly every henchman of Cochran's was cast through the extras casting.
Nigel Neal, who wrote the film, had his name taken off the film after seeing how violent it was. He actually sued the production.
Well, that's ridiculous. That film being violent in a Halloween, I guess he didn't expect it to be a slap. I guess because he was like, oh, it's not going to be Michael Myers, so it won't be brutal. And I don't know what he expected, but
I mean, and a lot of it was robots getting killed.
And orange juice for blood.
So what? This kid watched the TV thing, his head caved in, and bugs came crawling out. Whatever.
I mean, I don't know how that's offensive to anybody. Anyway, let's get into talking to Stacey Nelkin and pick her brain a bit. Our guest today has nearly 50 roles under her belt in the industry, and to you listeners, you all know her as Ellie from Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Welcome, Stacey Nelkin. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking the time. We know you're busy. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, so first off, I wanted to. I watched an interview with you on Ice Creams, and I want to jump right into this. You had said that you were traumatized by The Exorcist for a month after you watched it. That movie messed me up as well. Could you share like your experience with that? How that went down?
Well, you saw the movie, so you know as well as I do. It's just very scary. The head turning, the voices coming out of her. It was all way more than I could handle at the time. So, yeah.
I agree. That kind of happened with me as well. When I was like 12, I watched it, and it was like an entire summer. I was sleeping with the lights on. I was so scared that there was shadows of tree branches on my parents' wall at night from like the moon hitting the tree in the front yard, and I was seeing Reagan's face like in the shadows. I was so scared of everything because of that movie.
Right,
and when I saw that you were scared, I had to ask you what your experience with that was, because you're our third guest now that has been messed up by that movie.
Yeah, it was just more than I could handle at that age. Yeah, it's a really good movie, and I think because it was sort of based in some reality, and the actors were amazing in it. So, it wasn't like a lot of the horror films are today that are really not very realistic. So that one just seemed much more plausible. And then all the scary shit was going on with her head turning around and her spitting pea soup out and, all that. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I said, that movie messed me up. I grew up in a Christian household, and that was part of the reason it messed me up so much. But let's jump into your career real quick. I just wanted to ask you, was there an actress that you looked up to or idoled that made you want to be an actress?
Oh, wow. There's so many. I was in love with Natalie Wood, Elizabeth Taylor, those were Audrey Hepburn. Those were the big ones. And I came this close. I met Natalie Wood. Well, I didn't meet her. We saw each other and said hello on. She was shooting the last film she was doing with Christopher Walken. Was it on the Universal lot? It was on one of the lots, Warner Brothers. One of those lots. I was coming from an audition, and she was walking with her makeup artist. And she was wearing flippers. She had just come out of some water scene or something. And she, pointed, and she was like, she's so cute. And I could see her saying that to the makeup artist guy. And I said, oh my God, I love you. But at the time, I was dating Perry King, and Perry had done a TV movie with her, and they were friends. And Perry was scheduled to do a play with her at the Amundsen Theater right before she died, like literally right before. We were invited to her. She apparently had these big New Year's parties, and I was so excited. I was finally going to get to really legitimately meet her that way. And then she passed away that Thanksgiving,
No, that's a shame.
But she was somebody I really thought was amazing, and of course Elizabeth Taylor, and yeah. Good question. Because in those days, there were big stars, that you would look up to. So.
And I know you said that The Exorcist scared you. Now that you've been in a horror movie, did that make it any better for you watching horror movies?
Nope. I still don't watch them. I don't like them. I don't watch them. I don't like getting scared. I think life can be scary and challenging enough. I don't want to. I don't find that entertaining. But I'm also somebody who doesn't like roller coasters. I don't like getting scared by those kind of things. I like excitement, but not that kind of excitement.
So how did you become involved with Halloween 3?
Oh, it's a long story that I'm sure you guys have heard, but I'll tell it again. I'm going to bring up Perry King again, because I was dating Perry, who had just left his wife, and he was living with a makeup artist who was the makeup artist for the last convertible that Perry and I met on. And Ron Walters, the makeup artist, Ron Walter, was already scheduled to be the makeup artist for Halloween 3. And he kept telling me, they haven't found the lead girl. You might be interested. And I'm like, no. I wasn't interested in doing a horror film. And because, as I said, I don't like to get scared. I like comedies. It wasn't my kind of thing. And they were getting closer, and they still hadn't found anybody. And Ron said, why don't you just read the script? So my agents, I was with CAA at the time. They got me a copy of the script, and I read the script, and I loved the part of Ellie. And I said, oh, I can do this. This looks fun, at least the part. I wasn't thinking about all the horror stuff around it, but I liked the character. I liked her a lot. And I went in to read, and literally as I was coming home from the audition, entering my apartment, the phone was ringing, and that was my agent saying, they loved you, you got the part. Which, never happens. Things like that where you get it. And I think the next day I was doing, makeup, going over to the Don Post studio and making the death mask and the mask of my arm, and so that I could be decapitated and lose my arm and all of those fun things. And we started shooting like 2 days after that. I mean, that's how down to the wire they were. So in part, I don't think it's because I wowed them so much as that they were desperate. But anyway, that's how that happened.
Was there anything specific you wanted to bring to the role of Ellie?
What I really saw in Ellie was just this kind of spunk and this little bit of humor I wanted to bring to. Yeah, I think those two things.
And how did you feel about her outcome? Because I kind of would have liked to have stayed with Dr. Chalice, played by Tom Atkins, till the end instead of being the android.
In retrospect, yes, of course, I would like that too, because then I could have been in the next sequel and whatever they've done. But, nobody wants to die or have their head cut off and their arm cut off and become a robot or whatever I became. But, that was how it went. I don't know. In most of the films I've done, I survived. So that was, that wasn't quite surviving there, was it? Although we never know really what happened to Ellie. Because I was a robot, just because my head got cut off and my arm, things could have regenerated. You never know. Right?
That's true.
Anything's possible.
Absolutely.
Did you have any favorite memories from on set?
I think the most bizarre and interesting thing we shot was literally when my head came off, and my head is over there on the grass, and I'm lying here and I'm looking at my head there. They built. We did all of that on a sound stage, and this is before green screen and all of those kind of easy digital fixes. This was more like old school where they had to be creative and use their heads and figure out a way to do this. And so they built a platform that was, I don't know, it was probably about 2 feet deep, and it was covered with grass and dirt, so it looked like the outside. And they had a hole where I had crawled under. My head pops up like a whack-a-mole. I'm there, and they had my body double, 4 feet away, with her head down another hole and covered with the grass everywhere. She couldn't see anything. And to be having my head up and looking over at this girl, at this body, the stunt double literally had same body type, wearing the outfit that I'd been wearing at the end of the film, which was now for several weeks. So every time I look down, that's what I'm seeing. It was very trippy to have had that experience, because it literally looked like my body over there. So I thought that was such cool movie making, because it was before, as I said, before all of the quick, easy fixes with, green screen stuff. So that was very cool and very resourceful of them, Tommy Lee.
Yeah, he's Tommy Lee Wallace is great with props.
Yep. Good brain. He's a musician, smart guy.
Now, Halloween 3, when it first came out, was pretty much universally panned. Even as a kid, I was like, this doesn't make sense. But now everybody's kind of recognized that it's a good movie on its own, separate from the Michael storyline, and it's one of my favorite horror movies, period. How has that been, seeing the perception of the movie change over the years?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, it was one of those films that I really enjoyed making. And like you said, it came and it went, from the movie theaters within days, if not hours. I mean, it was before you blinked, it was gone from the theaters, which was not surprising because, there were all these other big blockbuster kind of movies. And so I just thought nothing of it. It wasn't a movie I ever particularly talked about or thought about. And then about 20 years ago, I found, all these fans started building more and more and more and more. It's an extraordinary, amazing kind of thing. I mean, you guys were probably not even born when it came out, right? I mean, right? So it's just found this incredible following. It's mind blowing because it's something, as I said, that was completely put away in my head. I mean, nobody thought anything. That was like done. Okay, next. Yeah, so I've done a bunch of things that nothing came from it. And this was probably the last movie that I would have thought of all the films I'd done and things I'd done that would have found some kind of following like this. And I love surprises like that. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you, did Tom Atkins ever give you any advice on set about acting or the business?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, I had been acting probably as long as he had at that point because I started as a teenager. He probably actually started young too. Not really. I mean, I certainly at that point was working a lot and wasn't, I didn't know who Tom was. Tom is an extraordinary actor, but it wasn't like I was, it wasn't like I was working with, I don't know, Robert Redford or Paul Newman, where you go, oh my God, tell me, what was that? But Tom was an incredibly generous actor and still is to this day, when we do these conventions together. He's so gracious and such a gentleman. And he's really, he really is talented. When I watch the movie again, and I've seen it more times than I ever thought I would in this lifetime, he's amazing in it. He's so good. He's so good. And I love to see him at these conventions because he's got, lines down the block. And young guys like your age are just so excited to meet him because he's done all these things and he's such a hero to them. He's
the man. We love him.
What?
He's the man. We love him.
Yeah, exactly. And he was kind of like the anti-hero hero,
Absolutely.
In most of the characters he's played. And he's like that in real life. He's kind of self-deprecating and just kind of, and he's just a great guy. He really is.
He is a class act. He's a very nice guy.
Yes,
John
right?
and I have met him. He's very cool. So let me ask you this. Does the Silver Shamrock song ever get stuck in your head when you watch the film?
Oh, how could it not? I mean, that's the idea. It's like eating a potato chip. You can't fucking stop. And it just doesn't stop. It just gets in that groove there, right? And it just, you're off to the races with that. It's going to be hours before you get that out of your head. Thank you, Tommy Lee. He did that,
Yeah, my mom's never seen Halloween 3, but she knows the Silver Shamrock jingle.
He does? Wow. Funny.
Well, what do you think happened at the end of the film? At the end of the film, Tommy Lee Wallace and Tom Atkins are on record as saying that they think that the commercial was pulled and it was a happy ending. Do you think that that's what happened, or do you think that the commercial went uninterrupted?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question.
Thank you.
It's something you get paid the big bucks for those questions, huh? I never really thought of that, except it's so dark at the end that I think it just keeps going. I don't think the commercial gets pulled at all. And especially with Tom screaming, stop it, and the music getting louder and louder and No, I think it's the beginning of the end of destruction. I think that's it. We're done. And the kids
That's
are
great
done.
that you say that. That's great that you say that, because that's what me and John think too. Like watching the
Yeah.
film, we were kind of surprised that Tom Atkins and Tommy Lee Wallace said that it ended happily to them, because I'm thinking that did not. I don't see how that goes happily to me. Like that ended very dark, as you said.
They said it ended happily?
Yeah, they said their interpretation is that the commercial gets interrupted and that it's like a happy ending. And I never
wow.
saw it that way watching it.
I never saw it that way either. I did not know they said that. I need to have a discussion with these gentlemen, because I'm missing something then, or we're all missing something, or they're missing something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I've always thought that the commercial just kept going.
Yeah. And then it's very dark and unrelenting, and nothing good's coming from it. Yeah.
And we just wanted to thank you for being on today. Halloween 3 is one of our favorite horror movies, and it's a pleasure just to talk to you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And I love that it's one of your favorite horror films. That's awesome.
Thank you for taking the time.
I love that. Thanks for guys like you that keep it going, honestly, you know?
Thank you, and take care.
You guys too.
It was great talking to you.
Be well. Take care. Thanks for having me on. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks to all the horror hounds. Jesus Christ. Why you gotta burp directly in the mic while I'm trying to wrap this shit up?
My bad. I didn't know you was recording.
I mean, you sitting in front of the mic. Come on. Anyway, thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. And thanks again for Stacey Nelkin for joining us. Drew and I both love Halloween 3, and we're glad it's finally getting the respect it deserves. I would have liked to have seen Halloween take the anthology route and maybe avoid some of those later Halloweens in the series. Join us next week when we talk with superhost, writer, and director Brandon Christensen. It's available now on Shudder. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and now on TikTok at HighOnHorror420. You can email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Make sure to check out our website, highonhorror.com, and sign up for our newsletter. And you can have the newest episode and guest announcements delivered straight to your inbox. And thanks as always to Josh for our theme and for producing our episode. Well, that'll about wrap her up. Catch yous later.
Bye, everybody.